Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the FearFans podcast. I'm your host, Don. With me is Nick and Joe. And yep, here we go again, indeed, Thomas. Hey, Santi, thanks for tuning in. And so today, I figured since we've covered the original Amityville horror a couple weeks ago, well, we should definitely cover the remake since we're going to be also discussing more of the actual case.
Yeah, this is essentially kind of in a way still considered a part two because there's still more to talk about with the actual Amityville case. But at the same time, though, yes, we will be talking about the remake itself. Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, real quick, because Sati was just saying, well, this is actually, you can see it says GBS on it, not the classic super. This was actually from my high school days from the V show we had back in 2011, and our theme for that year was called Heroes, so it was a hero themed event.
Nice. That's awesome. Oh, man. Like, when the only article of clothing that I have left from my high school days was that Jason Voorhees belt buckle that I got from Flashback Weekend.
Yeah, I still got I. This is I'm not even joking with it now being officially pretty much summer at this point, being like 90 degrees over here, which that's actually what I did before we started was I got the fan on down here. So, but yeah, I basically have pretty much made the official transition to wearing summer clothes finally. Yesterday was my last day I was wearing long sleeve clothes. So, but the bottom line I'm simply saying is that this is not only just the first, but I actually still have quite a number of shirts from my high school days that still are in pretty good shape that I could still wear this day.
You got to consider yourself lucky, both of you,
Hmm.
because I don't have a single thing from my high school years except memories. You know,
Really? Okay.
I
because I got
mean, I still
involved.
have
I got involved with these women that were they'd get mad or you break up with them and they'd destroy some of your stuff. So I don't have any of my old T-shirts from my high school years or anything like that.
Right,
Oh,
right.
man.
Well, maybe a yearbook from my freshman year, maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hey, Billy. Oh, yeah. Like, oh, man. Like, back in those days, Nick, I swear, like, when I got that belt buckle from that horror convention, I was wearing it at school, and, like, some of the guys, all the guys were like, yo, Don, where'd you get that buckle, man? That's badass.
I wish I could say the same for something like this, but the other difference is, like I said, this was provided to me because I actually worked on. Yeah, just to respond to what Santi said. Yeah, that actually it was actually because I took part in the V show. I was in television class, and I worked on the class. I worked on the production itself, but I also actually took part in the on-camera video skit that we had. And you're going to find this hard to believe. It was supposed to be dealing with villains, and I was apparently Bowser in the video, which I still got. It's funny as hell. That 15 years ago. That was fun. That was fun. That was a fun time.
Nice. Oh, man. But, yeah, so, yeah, like Billy's saying, like, Michael Bay produced this. Yeah, Michael Bay produced all kinds of horror remakes. Like, I believe he produced the Friday the 13th remake in 2009. Like, I
No,
swear, like, that 2000s era was big on horror remakes, both good and bad ones. Like, they had the remake of The Fog, which both me and my dad
Oh
hated.
God, that was horrible.
I
We
don't
both of
like
us hated.
remakes to begin with. They
I
should
mean,
never be done, and it proves that Hollywood and the people in Hollywood have no imagination anymore. It
It's
went
like
out the
yeah, I mean,
window.
it's
let's
like what
see.
I've always said. I don't understand sometimes. I mean, yes, there have been like at least a few good remakes, but for the most part, even oh, who am I thinking of? He was.
Yeah,
I,
but
I
the
know he.
sequels get taken too far too. Sometimes,
Yeah, I'm
I
trying to
mean, come
remember
on,
his.
leprechauns in space. Give me a
Oh
break.
God, that was bad.
I
Oh,
mean,
man.
I could go on and on with that, but I won't.
Well, Gunner, I remember now who I was talking about. Even Gunnar Hansen, who played the original Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre back in 1974, had once said in an interview before he passed away about he didn't under he didn't understand why because especially because he actually said this. Hey, Jenny's in the chat from Ireland. Good to
Hey,
long
hey,
time no
Jenny.
see. Not long time no see. Good to see you here. Um, Even he said because again when he made this word because it was actually during that time the early 2000s that He didn't understand why that there were all these remakes that were coming out, and he even said, you know, why would you want to? Why do you want to remake a film that had already done its job really well? So
Yeah, I mean, remakes can be efficient if there are things to improve on, like mainly with practical effects in some cases, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Well, one of the improvements was practical effects, and among other things. Let's see,
John
the
Carpenter's
Blob.
thing.
Yeah, the John Carpenter's The Thing. Yep, the Blob remake, which I'm very fond of. Yeah, Dawn of the Dead remake. I actually do enjoy that one.
Yeah, that was even Eli Roth actually said that Dawn of the Dead remake was one of the best remakes actually in his mind since John Carpenter's The Thing, excuse me. But also there was another movie that came out. This is one that we should eventually talk about at some point, and this one actually is a slasher film, Don. I'm not sure if you've seen this one or not. This, funny enough, it
Right.
actually came out the same year as Halloween did, 1978, The Toolbox Murders.
Ooh,
Ooh, yes.
You ever seen that film?
long time ago.
Did you ever see it, Don?
I I've seen clips of it, just never the whole thing. I got to see the whole thing one day. I
Yeah.
really do.
Well, the Toolbox Murders. I'll just say this for now, because we'll save it obviously when we actually talk about it. But I will say for now, I've only seen the original one, and I know it's. Some people say it's a good film, others say it's not because it's it's kind of cheesy. Then again, it's a slasher film. It's like what you would expect out of a slasher movie from the 70s or 80s.
Well, yeah,
But
they have
oh,
technology.
Yep.
They have
Well,
but you know the
Leon.
weirdest. But in 2004, ironically enough, Toby Hooper actually made a remake of the Toolbox Murders, but it's a completely different story. I mean, it's still a
Yeah, they
slasher
changed the
movie.
story around.
Yeah, it's
I
a
wanted to
different.
address.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I wanted to address Leon. Yeah, I forgot that remake even existed. Yeah,
yeah,
that's how
that
little
was,
impact it had.
you
yeah,
know,
that I never saw that.
that's another thing with remakes. You know, the iconic star that was in those films that made those films possible to have sequels died, and they can't replace
Oh, they can.
Carrie Ann from the little girl in Poltergeist. You know, they're
Yeah.
back. The one that
Yeah,
and Candyman.
Tony Todd.
Candyman sucked. I saw the remake once, and I don't usually watch remakes, but it sucked. I was a big fan of the original guy that played Candyman.
Tony Todd. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Tony
his
what's
Todd.
name was kind of like you know I was
Well, it
drawing.
was kind of ironic. This remake that I'm talking about of the Toolbox Murders, even though it's a different story, it's still a slasher film. They actually said that this was one of the few remakes that actually did better than the original one did. And the original one starred Cameron Mitchell in it. But of course, I think by the time they made the remake of it, he died around that time, I think.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke,
Yeah. I mean,
don't ruin it. Yeah, that's right, Jenny.
yeah. Like as far as this remake, Amityville Horror, when it was released, like the whole Lutz family was against it, saying they were never consulted about it, and I believe that the real George Lutz was so opposed to this film. I think he at one point wanted to take legal action, but he died shortly after this remake came out.
Well,
Or, died before anything could take place. Yeah.
that's because,
So
in
yeah,
my opinion, the Lutz were in it for just the money.
In which is something obviously, we're gonna talk about more with the real case around it
Yeah,
because
the
I'm
real
not only
case
just
is
gonna.
scary.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not only gonna just talk about just the events that occur with the Lutzes themselves, but also around that time too when both films came out.
Because
hmm
DeFeo, the Ronnie DeFeo, that story there is the scariest of all because it's a true story that
Yeah, the
happened in
murders,
that house.
which
Oh
we
yeah, I
talked
mean,
about. Go on, Don. Go on.
yeah, I was about to say, yeah, like that's what's terrifying about it is like that part of the story is true. That Ronald DeFeo, also known as Butch, had went crazy and killed his family. I mean, it's like
And to this
he
day,
said
we
he
don't
said
know
he
the
heard
answer
voices.
why.
Yeah,
Well,
and then you look at then you look at like I actually like before this I actually dug into like more modern cases of like families being murdered, and like there was one that took place not that long ago in what was it called? Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, I think it
Oh yeah,
was.
Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Yeah, or either Broken Arrow or Broken Bow, Oklahoma.
I think it was Broken Arrow.
Okay,
Yeah, like
but yeah, I
two.
know Oklahoma
Where they were like,
has a couple towns that starts with Broken.
yeah, so where the two eldest sons had murdered their entire family, and yeah, like the youngest was like 3 years was actually I think there was a younger daughter, but the youngest that was killed I think was 3 years old, and I'm just like, good God,
Yeah, they call them
yeah,
familicides.
demented people in this world.
Yep,
Well, and we
there
covered
sure are.
about we did cover the lives of the DeFeo family last time we spoke, and you could
Yes,
even already see that even prior to the murders, that they were already a dysfunctional family.
Well,
Like
yeah,
they had a lot of problems, and there's actually something I'm going to tell you, Don, that I didn't even tell you about last time. And what I'm about to say, by the way, is going to sound, yeah, I'm not going to go too much into it because it is kind of graphic, but this is still kind of disturbing because Ronald DeFeo Jr., before he died in prison in 2021, had given different stories and theories of why he killed his family. One of the darkest allegedly rumors involving why he killed his family was he still always adamantly admitted that he at first only wanted to kill his father because Ronald DeFeo Sr. was an abusive man, not only just to him but especially to the rest of his siblings as well as even his wife. So he only had thoughts of wanting to kill his father, even though still wasn't right to begin with. But that's not the worst part. There is before I say this too, there is no evidence to actually prove that this was true. This was only just a rumor. Supposedly, his 18-year-old sister Dawn had conspired with him of wanting to kill the entire family. Like,
yeah,
so
there've
it
been
was almost
stories
like
about that.
she was kind of supposedly into this. But even to make matters worse, and again, this is where I'm not going to say too much about it. There was a rumor that supposedly they were in an incestuous relationship,
Oh,
which is sick. Which, as we already know, that is just a whole nother
yeah,
level. That is a whole nother level of ghoulish. But again, in spite of that, which explains that scene, if you remember in the second movie, Don,
yes, I
and
do.
the possession. But again, in spite of that rumor and like what you see in Amityville 2, the possession, again, there is no evidence to actually prove that they were in an incestuous relationship, but that still remains to be seen either way. Obviously, now with Ronald DeFeo Jr. himself who died 5 years ago, we will never know if they actually were in that kind of relation, if that relationship
well,
was true or not. Let's
that
just
Yeah,
really hope it
I
never
don't.
was.
And to be honest, I don't even want to know.
Yeah, I don't even want. I
well,
just only want to
that
say I
you'll
just only
never,
hope that it never was.
and you'll never know the truth behind it because he told so many different stories over the course of whatever time frame. His dad was involved in the mafia and the mafia
Hmm.
forced him to do it, or he was possessed, or there were so many different stories. You couldn't believe a thing that was coming out of that psychopath's mouth. He was basically a clinical what was he was a psychopath.
Yeah,
you
I
know
mean,
Yeah,
the combination, as I would describe, again, with the addition of the rumored incestuous relationship he had with his sister and the murders, regardless what's true and what's not, he had basically done things that can only be described as they they're just monstrous.
yeah, totally.
Well, you couldn't believe half the stuff that was coming out of his mouth because
Yeah,
you didn't
not to
know if
mention he
he
was
was
also a
telling
drug
the
user.
truth or not.
Not to mention he was a drug user too.
Yeah,
And I think half the time when he was telling the stories, especially when he had a camera on him, it was more for the shock value, to get the publicity. I think he wanted that too, you know.
yeah. Like that's the thing with a lot of killers. When they
Well,
are caught, a lot of them just want the media attention.
right, exactly. And
Because they
you
have the
think
cameras
about
on
it.
them.
Oh, there's one first story. Oh, I just came home and I found them dead. He was out and he just came home and found them dead. Come on. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
and then the cops, it didn't line up with his, his whole thing. And then, they tried to prove his stories, and sometimes they got disproved quicker than he told them.
Yep.
You
yeah,
know,
Uh,
very true.
Santi, real quick, because he said GBS stands for Greg from the Wiggles, Barney
What?
the Dinosaur, and Super. No comment. No, GBS, that stands for the initials of my high school, Glenbrook South.
Hmm. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So like the opening for Amityville Horror Remake was pretty much was similar, yet had a few differences. Like this time, it opened by showing Ronald DeFeo watching just downstairs in the basement, watching a test pattern. You know, like what they used to have when TV
Mhm.
stations were off the
Please
air.
stand by.
Yeah, please stand by. Yeah, one of those. This time it had a Native American head in the center, and he keeps hearing voices telling him to kill. And then
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, so in this version, the TV made him do it.
Yeah, well, in that Native American head, that was something that actually did exist for the police standby pictures back in the
Yeah,
70s. Of
yeah,
course,
but it,
obviously, that did attract some controversy back then because they obviously considered it kind of racist, I guess,
they,
using a
they
Native
still
American
they
symbol.
they still do today.
Yeah, they
And
still do today. So obviously,
yeah, a
even if,
lot of high schools around Madison changed they had Native American names and stuff, and they were forced to change them.
yep,
yeah, because it was considered too racially
Yep.
controversial.
yep. And let's see. Oh yeah, and so one of the biggest differences is that the youngest daughter, who in this is named Jody, I'm pretty sure they changed that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
that's
that's not.
She
Yeah,
was based off the youngest. She was based off the youngest real life. The only closest connection of Jody is she was based off the real life uh, youngest daughter, Allison. Oh,
yeah,
excuse me, yeah,
exactly.
Allison. But Allison was also a few. She was
Yeah.
not 7 or 8 years old. She was 13 when she was killed.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's that. Yeah, that's right. But anyway, so yeah, this time she's not killed in bed. She gets into her closet, and then Ronnie finds her there and shoots her like off screen. Like the gunshot flash is seen from those eye windows.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that too with Allison. Again, she never did wake up and was killed in her closet. Like the rest of her family, she was killed in her bed.
Yeah, they changed a few things around, I guess, for creative license. Like that scene later on where the babysitter gets trapped in the closet. Jody's spirit is in there and then traumatizes her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Jody was changed from a demonic entity named Jody from
The
the
original
original.
Amityville.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a
So
demonic pig creature.
yeah. So changed from that to being the youngest member of the DeFeo family who was murdered.
Yeah, because like in the original Amityville film, Jody half of the time was also invisible, except for two scenes where Kathy goes to, I guess, close a window or something, and very briefly you see two bright red glowing eyes blinking in the
Yes.
dark, and then later near the end of the film when George is possessed by the house and is about to start his attempted murder spree, if you will, he
Hmm.
looks upstairs and he sees this pig-like creature with red eyes staring at him, and then when he walks in, that's when the entity vanishes.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember seeing that as a kid, being like, "What the hell was that?"
I was trying to figure that out too, saying, "What the hell are we?" I knew it was glowing eyes, but I thought, like, "What the hell are we looking at?" And then I realized years later, thinking, "Oh, it's a demonic purple pig-like creature." And I like even though the scenes are brief, I like how partially animated it looks. So it's like you also
Yeah.
think to yourself too, like, "Wow, no CG. It's animated, but it's not CGI."
Yeah, that's right. And I feel like I don't know. I feel like the jump scares in this were like of a lot less efficient. I mean, it's like a lot of them. Some of them happen. They happen a lot more frequently, and I feel like the timing of them is pretty poor. You know, so yeah. Like as far as jump scares go, I prefer the original.
Yeah, this one it's always best to, and this is what the original Amityville film did. Yes, in spite of what I just mentioned about that, we briefly do see Jody, the demonic pig-like creature. It's always best sometimes never to show the demonic entities because it's always more scary what you don't see than what you do see.
Yeah.
In the remake of Amityville, yes, it was sometimes cool to sometimes see some of the ghosts and demons, but they showed them a little too much to the point. It's like, no, man, it got to a point where, no matter what it was, whether it was a ghost or demon, or what it was you were expecting it to look like, you were already expecting of what it was going to be.
That's right. I mean, as far as this remake, I mean, I'm not sure if I could go as far as saying it's as good as the original Amityville Horror, but I will give it this though. Like by introducing this film, it got like a whole new generation to research and get into the whole true story of Amityville, of the
And
Amityville.
that's what we'll be partially covering here on the show too, about what what I uncovered. And it's also it's ironic because I still remember when the remake came out over 20 years ago.
Same here.
And that, believe it or not, that, as I've said numerous times, that was the case that really got me started. Like, yes, it was around that time I was starting to watch the paranormal shows that were, on Friday nights on the Travel Channel back then. But this was the case that really brought me into it, and really, just as a young 12-year-old, really wanted to kind of crack down on the case and really try to uncover the true story behind it. And, obviously, I think I finally, accomplished that goal not too long ago. So something that took me almost 20 years to uncover, I think I finally got the answer. Well, maybe not all the answers, but most of the answers I've been looking for. So that's this. I honestly think without this remake, I wouldn't be also where I'm at today with my research.
Yeah. So credit is due in some aspects of this remake, but let's
Yeah.
see. What? Oh yeah, I also noticed the house's address in this is 412 Ocean Avenue. So that's one.
412.
Yeah, that's one minor difference. And also, this was filmed in several parts of Chicago and Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
Really?
oh yeah,
Yeah, it was. In fact, the house that they were using, typical, just like they did with the original Amityville film in 1979, where, well, actually, no. In the original Amityville film, as we talked about last time, Don, they used a house in Toms River, New Jersey. And it filmed both the exterior and the interior of it. But when they started making Amityville 2 and 3, they only filmed the exteriors of it because the owners no longer wanted the film companies in their house. Supposedly, too, they also were not allowed to film inside because supposedly blood stains from the fake blood effects from the original film were still stained on the wall.
oh
So that was something I forgot to mention last time. I think supposedly there were still stains on the wall from the falling blood effects. And then, like I said, in the fourth Amityville film, then Amityville 4, they filmed at a house in Wilmington, California. But in the remake, in this case, from what I know, the exterior, again, much like the second and third, well, I forgot to mention, so because Toms River was only filmed exteriorly in the second and third films, the interiors were filmed in a studio in Mexico. So much like Amityville 2 and 3, in this case, with the remake of the Amityville, the exteriors, the house of the exteriors that they were using for this one was filmed in Silver Lake, Wisconsin.
that's
And
right.
the
I believe it used to be
interior-
called Salem.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. You're right. No, it was Salem, Wisconsin. You're right.
Yeah.
I get the two mixed up. It was in Salem, Wisconsin, and the interiors were filmed. Just look that up real quick. 'Cause
Yeah, and I believe they had to like modify the house to make it look similar to the real Amityville house.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, this remake has additions than just the classic Dutch colonial house had in the original film, because it has those additional parts of the house to it.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing that's left out of the of the opening of this film, where George and Kathy are looking around inside the with the realtor, like when they go to check out all those rooms, right? They don't show like flashbacks to the murders taking place in a room that they go into.
No.
That's left out of this remake, and I don't know. Like, is it a thing in real life where houses are actually cheaper when a serious crime is taking place in them?
Sometimes.
I guess yeah, like what Joe said. I would probably also say it depends on who you talk to and what state it is too, because each state and territory too, because it also extends to the U.S. territories. Each state and territory has a particular rule when it comes to houses where crimes were committed. And the same thing too with realtors, that if they're allowed to disclose or not disclose
Well,
that
they
a
have
murder
to
has taken place.
disclose things by law.
Well,
In a lot
some
of cases
states,
they do have to disclose things. Yeah.
well, I was going to say most states usually do, but there are a few states that still don't. But most, I know, for both Illinois and Wisconsin, they are required to tell them, saying, "Yeah, there was a crime that occurred here."
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if they actually do sell cheaper because of that. In a lot of cases, I mean,
Well, sometimes,
I could probably ask my aunt Peggy. I mean, she's in real estate. She helped me get this condo.
well,
Also,
sometimes you got to think about it though. Okay, let's just say, for example, I mean, because well, what's his name? The clown, Gacy.
John
John
Wayne
Wayne Gacy.
Gacy.
Yep,
Oh
yep.
yeah,
All right, say it's
bad.
somebody that famous, and they went and sold his mother's house and the house he was in that they found the berries, the bodies buried. Those houses could go for a lot more than what they're worth just because of how famous the case was.
Yeah, because of how notorious the killings were. I mean, John Wayne Gacy. I mean that and crazy. What's scary is that his house is not too far away from my childhood neighborhood.
Well, and I've been to the house. I mean, I'm not actually. I mean, not actually inside the house, but I've actually been within the area where the house is at.
Oh man.
And I'm just going to throw this out real quick. Contrary to popular belief, everybody always said that the house after the murders involving John Wayne Gacy, that supposedly the house was demolished shortly afterwards, because obviously they wanted to prevent it from being a tourist attraction, understandably. But and then they supposedly said that there was a parking lot that was put in its place, that to replace it. That is actually not. Has actually been revealed to be false. They
Yeah.
built a whole new house from scratch a few years after the Gacy house was torn down,
That's
Yeah.
and this was like this was like over 25 years ago that this was built.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
the
And
house is obviously is much different than what John Wayne Gacy owned, and also furthermore too, because I want to be clear to everybody out there, because again, we do have our thrill seekers out there. You cannot visit the house, as the house is even though yes, it may have been the site of where John Wayne Gacy committed his murders, but it is a private residential area, so therefore you can only view it from a distance.
yeah,
Well,
that's
that
what.
and it's like when you're visiting like the town, you want to have respect because
Exactly.
especially when you're like Plainsfield or whatever, Ed Gein.
Plainfield, yep. Ed Gein, same
His
thing.
house got burned down by the people, but the hardware store and these other places are still there in town, but they don't want to be talking and bringing up that history.
No, and I don't blame them for
You
feeling
got to
that
be
way.
real careful when walking around that town. You know,
Exactly.
and then you go to places like the other one that comes to mind is Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer, yeah, his
Oh
whole
yeah.
apartment.
You go to where his property was in Milwaukee, which was an
Mhm.
apartment building. It's just an empty lot now.
Yeah.
It's an empty lot,
It's
and
demolished.
chilling. Joe, I think I told you this a while back. Don, I don't know if you knew this. Chillingly, back in the '70s, when pretty much around that time when Jeffrey Dahmer was just pretty much getting started with his murder spree, my mom lived just down the street from him when she was still in college.
Oh
She
god.
had a college dorm that was just down the street from where Jeffrey Dahmer was. Like I said, this was only probably around that time when he committed his first murder, so he wasn't like a full-out serial killer yet. It wasn't really. I think until the late '70s, early '80s was when he really started up. But either way, it's pretty creepy that he was just down the road from a potential serial killer.
Well,
Bless you,
My
Joe.
god, dude.
I drove right by there like a week or something, and, after he was arrested and all that and gone on trial and stuff. The Milwaukee State Fair, was down there at the same time. Around that time, I took a detour to go by that area, and you couldn't even get near it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because of the police presence and the tape
Right.
and stuff, and the photographers and the media. It was just, I tell you, it was nuts for a while. But
I'm
I,
sure it
I
was.
remember this. I'll never forget this. I said when they sentenced him to Portage Prison, right?
Hmm.
That's where he went.
Hmm.
I
Which I passed. I passed Portage Prison.
right. Well, I go by there a lot because I live
It's
around
on the
it.
way. It's
You
close
know,
to the Illinois-Wisconsin border.
but
Yeah.
the whole thing is, I said it then that he ain't gonna last too long because somebody in there that was a lifer, that has nothing to lose, is gonna kill him. And I said it, and I was right.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, that's right.
because a guy like that, whether it's killing young women, gays, it doesn't matter. They were defenseless, they were innocent, and some people will take offense to that in jail. You
Yeah. I
know,
mean,
Yeah,
and you go and tell them, oh yeah, I murdered a bunch of gay guys. Yeah, they're gonna get you.
they
You're
are.
yeah.
not
I mean,
gonna last long.
Yep.
we've always heard a lot of times that inmates in prison always have a code of conduct. Usually, just we were always led to this belief that there's a code of conduct with inmates that only attack prisoners that have done violent crimes to kids. Well, that's not always the case. They sometimes will also do that if your crimes are so extreme, even to adults. So therefore, it's like they're taking the law into their own hands.
And they
So
don't
that's
want
why,
you in their population is
yeah, they don't
basically
they don't
what it
want you in
is.
there.
Yep.
I knew I see. I've always been on the right side of the law. Okay, I've never been in prison except to visit somebody, but the people I know came out with stories and they tell me stuff, and it's a lot. They don't portray some of this stuff on TV the way it really is.
No,
Oh
no,
yeah, I
no.
believe it.
And they don't like rapists and certain crimes that you commit. If you do them, you really got to watch your back in general population because
Yep.
Hmm.
there are those lifers that don't give a rat's ass that will take you out.
That's true.
See, I'm
And
surprised it didn't happen with Ronald Vale Jr.
yeah, I know.
They kept him in
Protective
confinement though,
custody.
Solitary
solitary.
confinement. Yeah,
Yeah, or protective custody, as they call it.
right. Yeah, and let's see. Oh, let's
Because
see.
they
Who's
wanted him alive because they were trying to get the truth out of him.
that's one
Yep.
reason. Yeah.
He's refusing to give up the whole truth.
Hey, there's
You know?
Sydney.
Hey,
There
Sydney,
she
how's
is.
it going?
There she is. I
Hey, how
figured
are
she'd
you?
be back.
Good to see you. And so let's see. Let's go over like the people who are in this. So Ryan Reynolds, yeah, like a lot of people were surprised by seeing him in this because he mostly he's done like romantic like comedies and before 2005, but
Marvel
then
movies.
oh yeah, but then seeing him play like a serious role like this that like fans were like actually shocked by
Not to
that.
mention that he had facial hair too.
Yeah, I mean he did have facial hair, a little bit of facial hair just in the role he was in before this in as Hannibal King in Blade Trinity.
Yeah, it is kind of weird to see him in such a serious role. I've often said, Don, you've heard me say this numerous times, saying that because this was still a decade, as we all know, before he, Sydney, Don, why don't you answer the question for
Oh,
Sydney
sorry.
quickly?
Yeah. Well, we have a little bit, just a little bit, but that's okay. Hey, we still got an hour left, so you're good.
And Sydney, just we're chatting about this time the remake of Amityville, but also do not worry. I still am. You haven't missed one thing. You haven't missed is my slideshow. So I'm going to be presenting more in a short while.
Yes.
So you haven't missed much. But what I was going to say, Don, is that considering that this was over a decade, still a decade before Ryan Reynolds, as we all know, who we love
Deadpool.
now, who did Deadpool, I always say this was back at a time. This was back when Ryan Reynolds was before Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean, it's like after Deadpool, anything I see him in now, I'm just hearing Deadpool. Like
Yeah,
even when I'm watching Pokemon Detective Pikachu, he's voicing Pikachu in that, but I'm hearing Deadpool.
right.
Ah,
Because there are those characters that people do, like Wesley Snipes did Blade so well that you. But Brian Reynolds was Deadpool. It made his career. I
Yeah,
love those movies.
oh, they
so
are
do I.
great.
So do I. The new one is great. Like a lot of to this day, a lot of neighborhood kids they know who I am. They come across me like like a year ago. They said, "Well, hey Don, what is your what are your these guys kids are like 10, 12 years old. They're like, what are your thoughts about Deadpool and Wolverine?" I'm just like, oh, first of all, I think Deadpool and Wolverine is definitely one of the best of the franchise, and second of all, what are you kids doing watching Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, I was gonna say, aren't they a little young to watch? I mean, I get that they're getting close to their teenage years, but still, aren't they a little young to see a movie like that?
Yeah, yeah,
Which, right, I
exactly.
still need to see the Wolverine. I still haven't seen the Deadpool one. Don, one of these. Hey, you know what? It's funny. I knew you were gonna make that look. I was gonna say, hey, let's find a night. Let's find a day one of these sometime soon to watch it. Because one of these days, I'm having you over. And we're watching that movie together.
Yes, among other things, and
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
dude,
I remember. Yeah,
Supernatural.
I
I
will
can't
admit, I remember.
believe you didn't ever watch Supernatural. I still can't get
Yeah, I
over.
know.
I know we're watching Supernatural next time, Nick. Oh, and yeah, Sydney, this might disappoint you, but like I thought that movie was okay, but Ryan Reynolds has since that film he's disowned the role. He's disowned
Uh, I
Just on
wasn't too
what role?
impressed.
as
Green
Green
Lantern,
Lantern.
I wasn't really impressed with
Oh,
either. To be
I
honest.
wasn't. Yeah, I didn't really like. The first movie was great. It was good to bring that comic hero to life. But Ryan Reynolds was meant for Deadpool.
Yeah,
Yes, it was.
yeah,
I mean,
man.
I will admit, yeah, it was great. There were some funny moments in like when he was in Green Lantern, but that was pretty much it. It was.
Yeah,
I was just more focused on him than the rest of the movie combined. That was like the only good part of it.
yeah.
But yeah,
He was the best
Deadpool
thing
though
about
was fantastic.
You
Oh
What is
know,
yeah.
that, John?
I think that one where he was in the Blade Trinity movie was better than Green Lantern. You
Yeah.
know, that role that he played.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Hannibal King. Yes, I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, I remember him, and let's see, Jessica Biel. I remember her in that as well. Let's see. Oh yeah, and let's also in this remake. Let's not in the Amityville Horror remake. Let's not forget. Let's see, Chelsea this time is played by Chloe Grace Moretz, who would become a huge star after this. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, she was just a little kid when she was in this, but 5 years after this is when she would get global attention for her role as Hit Girl in Kick Ass.
I know it's.
Yep. And let's see, she was in. Oh yes, she was also. So she was in the sequel to that, which came out 3 years later. I remember because I saw that in college as well. And let's see, then around that same time, she was also playing Carrie in the 2013 remake of Carrie.
Got
And
No, I didn't get to see that.
yeah, it
Was
was.
it good?
I thought it was decent. It's not as
it
bad
was
as the
pretty
people.
decent.
Yeah, it's not as bad as some people think it is. Let's see. I remember
I
her
mean,
in.
Because
it's still not the
because
greatest,
that
but it still
original
was pretty
Carrie
good for
was
what it was.
the original Carrie was Sissy Spacek or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and what's actually interesting is that the different. I will just point this out. So again, funny enough, talking about another remake. The difference between the original Carrie from 1976 and the remake from 2013 is that obviously Sissy Spacek was in her late 20s when they did that movie, which explains the nudity. Obviously, in the remake, however, though, Chloe
Yeah.
was an actual high school age girl. She was only like 16 years old
Yeah.
when she did the role. So they were actually in their case, they were actually trying to make it more realistic with an actual high school kid.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
well,
So, in other words, when you were trying, I thought you were going to go with, oh, they didn't show her, and
No, I wasn't going to say that.
just like in the original, and I'm like, yeah, no, they couldn't have done that because she was underage.
She was
well,
underage. It's funny to think the other students were probably in their 20s, but she was like, I think, the only high school student.
Yeah.
but see those people in the original Carrie film, they were all adults.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, you had John Travolta in there of all people, and
Yeah, John Travolta. That's right. I forgot he was in that.
yeah, think about it. And you had all these people in there. They weren't teenagers, but they were used to playing high schoolers.
Oh yeah.
They were
Actually,
used to already playing high schoolers.
I think John Travolta might have just been a recent graduate high school student at that time because he was like 19 years old, I think, when he did like Saturday Night Fever the following year.
Yep.
So if he did Carrie back in 1976, he would have been fresh out of high school.
Yeah,
So
but he was
he would have
also
probably
doing
been.
Welcome Back, Kotta in the 70s.
Oh wait, no, I take that back. No, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. No, because he was 23 by the time he did.
Yeah, I was thinking, wait a minute, he was a little bit older.
No, yeah, I got that wrong. I was thinking of someone else. Now
He's
he was
older than
23.
I am.
No, I
Yeah,
was going to say he
Car-
was 23 by the time he did Grease in 1978. So no, I
yeah,
take it back. No, he would have only been 21.
yeah. No, Carrie was before
Older
Grease.
than I am.
That was 1976. Yes.
Grease was
Okay.
1978.
Yes. And so, as for this film, Amityville Horror Remake, which, like the original, it takes place during in the 1970s era, which, as Billy pointed out, and I think this movie did a decent job with as far as making it look as 70s as possible. Like, I didn't really see that many and what's called anachronisms, which are like things that are like for example, like if you see the film and you see like I don't know, like an iPhone, that would be an anachronism because that wasn't around back then in 1970s. Yeah, or let's see. Or if you see something that's set in, I don't know, like in the 90s, like, and then you see in somebody's bedroom that there's a PS5. PS5 wasn't around back then, so that's an anachronism.
You know, or
Well, and don't forget
or a
2005
couple of
was still,
posters on the wall, or bands that weren't popular yet.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Led
I've
Zeppelin.
seen stuff like that. They try and
And don't forget 2005 was just about a year. In addition to Don, don't forget because you
Hey,
mentioned
Kate.
about phones. To that, 2000. Oh, hey Kate. 2005 was also about a year or two before the iPhone even came out. So if you really think about it too, this was even still, even though it's set in the 70s in the real world, if you will, at that time, this was still like a year or two before the iPhone ever even came out.
well,
So,
Right.
hey Braxton.
Yeah, right. Point
they,
being,
they
point,
had the backpack thing. It was a big battery backpack, and the thing was still on a cord, and it was huge, and it had a huge antenna on it.
yeah,
That's the kind of phone you had in the 70s,
pretty
and
much.
and that was a mobile phone in the 70s.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's see. And there were no little girl in the killings, right, Don? There was a scene where a little girl was killed in the opening. In
Well,
this.
he's referring to the real life murders.
Oh.
Like I said, Allison was the youngest daughter, but she was 13 years old when she was murdered.
Yeah, this one in this she looked younger in this.
Like 7 or 8.
Yeah,
Because
roughly.
the actress that portrayed her was about 7 or 8 years old.
That is true. And let's see, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, and I like how like in this they put more like a menacing tone in the whole depiction of George Lutz's descent into madness, or what like or his whole like house's influence taking like its horrific toll on him. It was definitely much darker in this version. Like
Yeah,
Ryan Reynolds, oh man, like he could play a good villain. I will say that,
yeah,
and also he's there are scenes where he's drawn to the basement and drawn to the boathouse, and I always make fun of this one bit where you see he looks out the window and sees a red balloon emerge from the boathouse, and I'm like, don't go in there. Pennywise is in there.
I knew
Not
you were going to say that.
We all float down here.
Well, that also seemed to take some inspirations, I think, from Amityville to. Hey, Chris. That also, I think, also took some inspirations from Amityville to The Possession because he discovers the ancient Native American burial ground in the basements, which kind of echoes that in Amityville to The Possession. But there are still several differences compared to the two films. I guess they want to include that hidden room in the basement, like where all these spirit ghosts and demons are coming from.
Right.
But they also added more to the history of the house, which we all know for a fact is not true. Supposedly there was that because we find out later on that not only is he George Lutz descending into madness from the house itself, but he's actually being controlled by one of the spirits of a man by the name of John Ketchum, which I will say John Ketchum might have been a real figure in real life, but again, no evidence to prove it.
Yep, I'm more of a fan of his distant relative Ash Ketchum.
Yeah, I knew you were. Yeah, yeah, but anyways, yeah, he might, but unlike that, but unlike Ash though, yeah, he might have been a real person. We don't know for a fact because again, there's still no historical records. I mean, yes, there have been people by the name of John Ketchum over the decades, if not centuries, but we don't know if this John Ketchum actually existed or not. But whether he existed or not, We do know for a fact he was not someone who murdered Native Americans, like to have all this land to himself, because that's the other thing too you see in this film is most of the spirits that you also see are primarily are the spirits of vengeful Native Americans that were murdered by John Ketchum, which we know for a fact that was never true. It
Right.
might be based off of, because again, unfortunately, because it said that he was expelled from Salem, Massachusetts during the Salem witch trial, so might be possible that it could be based off real life like murders of Native Americans like during that time from other areas of the country, but there was never a serial killer by the name of John Ketchum that murdered Native Americans before the house was built.
Yeah, that was pretty much put into this film just for creative license.
Oh, and also speaking of history, I did look up too, Don. This actually goes back to the question what we were asking about the interiors of the house. Actually, okay, so it sounds like to me that I think both the indoor and outdoor scenes were filmed in that's why I kept calling it Silver Lake. It was on Silver Lake Road in Salem, Wisconsin. But what's kind of ironic though is that the house that they used for the remake was a historic house itself. It was built in the 1880s. Oh. So it did kind of have that spooky historic atmosphere to it. So who knows?
Yeah,
maybe in real life it is a real haunted house. I mean, I really don't know, but unlike what you see in the remake, which that history when Kathy starts going back further into the house's history, that goes back to the 1600s. In reality, this house actually goes back to the 1880s. So about over 140 years.
Oh wow, it's like they do a good job with set design, like making the house look like even when they modified it, they still managed to make it look really old. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here, I wanted to get back to a few comments here.
Yeah.
And I knew some stories and rumors of Amityville. Sydney loves the remake, and Sydney, you were asking about who I should go outside more. Who that is? That's our friend Kate. She's part of the network. She's been part of the show, and she's also a moderator for my YouTube channel.
Yep. I'm actually going to be talking with her when I get off after this.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
One beer here at a time. I like it.
Wow.
Yeah, I will say this though. One of the scenes that I'm disappointed the most with in this was the fly scene. Because everybody remembers, if you've seen the original Amityville Horror, everybody knows about Callahan, Father Callahan, who he goes inside the bathroom to bless the house, and then he starts getting the whole bathroom gets infested with flies. It's like, it's pretty genuinely creepy, right? Well, in this remake, the flies just suddenly burst out of a vent. CGI flies, by the way, that didn't really age that well.
I wasn't impressed with that either.
No.
And it was such a brief, and the fly scene was so brief too, because they show up, the invisible entity shows up, tells him to get out, and that's it. While in the original film, it lasts for several minutes, which does give it that very unsettling feeling to it. Like it was the original film, it took its time. It really took. It didn't start quick. It slowly got there to the point they're thinking, okay, this is perfect. In the remake, they went way too fast with it.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, even when the invisible entity tells the priest to Callahan to get out, the flies disappear all of a sudden. Then it's like they just retrieve back to wherever they came from.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Oh, here, I wanted to get to Billy's comment here. Since Ryan Reynolds played George, does he have his trademark early humor and charm to George? I don't think so. He was definitely more menacing.
Yep.
Yeah, and more menacing than James Brolin's performance from the original. And I think
I'm gonna have to take pictures.
Yeah, I think some of you were not tuned in when I said this, but the real George Lutz did not approve of this film at all. He was he hated this. I think he wanted to take legal action at one point, but died before doing so. He died shortly after this movie came out.
His legal action would have fallen flat because it was all about the money for him anyways.
Speaking of which,
this house that you're talking about in Silver Lake Road in Wisconsin, in Salem, Wisconsin.
Yep.
Yes.
I found it
You found it? Okay.
I found a site called Wisconsin Frights, Frights,
Oh, I've
and
heard of that site. Yep, I know
yeah,
what that site is.
and they even tell you screen used items left behind from the production, such as a bed used by Reynolds, the kitchen table were all sold at an estate auction in 2017.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think
There,
they used that house for another movie too, if I'm correct. It became kind of a popular filming.
But I've got the actual address for the house, and I'm going to see how far Salem is, and I'm going to go take pictures.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
there it is.
yeah, that's the actual house itself. Now, for several years, from what I've heard, for almost a decade after the remake was filmed, the the facade was actually still left on the house. So it actually still had the eye windows for a short while before they eventually finally took the facade down. So, and they sold, I do remember they sold the eye windows at an auction, but I don't remember exactly um, what it was sold for. But yeah, now it was, yeah, so that facade remained for quite a long time before they eventually took it down.
Right. Well, what just happened?
You got to close the window.
I did. Oh, here.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, that was weird. But here, Don, Nick, and Joe. Instead of Ryan Reynolds, do you think Josh Brolin, the son of James, would be a better choice for the remake of George? I think he
No.
would have the look.
Well, he probably would, but I don't think he would be able to do the role of George because by then he was older then. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I wouldn't think that. I honestly wouldn't think so.
let's see. I believe Josh Brolin. He's done all sorts of movies. I'm pretty sure he would have had either he had refused to do the role or he had scheduling conflicts. Yeah.
Which, by the way, speaking of real life stuff, you guys want to know some truths about the real life case stunts because it's already 9/26.
Sure.
So all this talk about because especially over the fact that we were talking about a lot of the apparent ghosts, like the scenes involving the ghosts and demons showing up.
Yep.
Now I'm going to kind of tell what I'm going to say is kind of partially the true side, and what I mean by that is that what I'm also going to talk about too is also from what the book read, because you guys are going to notice a complete difference in activity compared to like what you see in the remake. Although I will say it does follow more closer to the original one. So you have I think you got the window. Yeah, the window's open, Don. So if you want to share it,
There it is.
this is actually kind of in a way of how we left off. So that was when we were talking about the murders. So now we talked about the DeFeo family before. Now we could talk about the Lutz family, and this is a real picture of them. So that's the original family, the real family. So we'll do a little quick story, for them quickly. So
Okay.
in December 19, and once again, just so everybody knows, I can't see comments while I'm doing this. So Don, I'll have to rely on you for the comments.
You got it.
In December 1975, 28-year-old George and 29-year-old Kathleen Lutz and their three children, 9-year-old Daniel, 7-year-old Christopher, and 5-year-old Melissa, aka Missy, moved into 112 Ocean Avenue. 112 Ocean Avenue remained empty for 13 months after the DeFeo murders. George and Kathy bought the house for what was considered to be a bargain price of $80,000. During their first inspection of the house, the real estate broker told them about the DeFeo murders of the previous November and asked if this changed their opinion about wanting to buy it. After discussing the matter, they decided it was not an issue. The Lutz family moved in on December 19th. Much of the DeFeo family's furniture was still in the house since it has been purchased for $400 as part of the deal. A friend of George learned about the history of the house, and because of the terrible past of the home, and just to be on the safe side, insisted the Lutzes on having the home blessed. At the time, George was a non-practicing Methodist and had no experience of what this would entail. Kathy, on the other hand, was a non-practicing Catholic and explained the process. George knew a Catholic priest named Father Ray who agreed to carry out the house blessing. In Anson's book, The priest is referred to as Father Mancuso, as we explained last time, for privacy reasons. But the now deceased priest's real name was Father J. Ralph Picaro, as Tom revealed last time. I'm going to skip this one because we talked about this one last time, Don. This was about when he came into the house.
Yeah.
So we're going to skip this one.
Okay.
So now this is going to be focusing more on their own personal activity. So at first, George and Kathy and their children experienced nothing unusual in the house. Talking about their experiences subsequently, they reported as if they were each living in a different house. Some of the experiences of the Lutz family at the house have been described as follows. So be ready. This is going to be quite a list. George would wake up around 3:15 a.m. every morning and go out to check the boathouse. Later, he would learn that this was the estimated time of the DeFeo killings. The house was plagued by swarms of flies, despite the winter weather. That's another thing too they changed in the remake, is that it took place during more to the spring and the summer instead of being the winter.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, in the original one, I mean, yes, it's still you may have not saw any snow in that either, but you could still tell it was cold because it was still you could still see they're wearing jackets and whatnot.
Yeah.
This is not an actual thing. This is actually a screenshot from the original film, the swarms of flies. I decided to add some screenshots in just so I could add some images. Kathy had vivid nightmares about the murders and discovered the order in which they occurred and the rooms they took place. The Lutz children also began sleeping on their stomachs in the same way that the dead bodies in the DeFeo murders had been found. Kathy would feel a sensation as if being embraced in a loving manner by an unseen force. George and Kathy, now this goes about the hidden room thing.
Hey, I gotta go.
Quick. Oh, you gotta go, Joe? Okay.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining. So hopefully everything's okay with you. Did he leave? I couldn't tell.
He just did.
Okay. George and Kathy discovered a small hidden room around 4 feet by 5 feet behind shelving in the basement. The walls were painted red, and the room did not appear in the blueprints of the house. And this is an actual picture this time. The room came to be known as the Red Room. This room had a profound effect on their dog, Harry, who refused to go near it and covered as if sensing something negative. George later reported he saw the face of Ronald DeFeo Jr. on one of the red walls staring back at him. But as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. But yeah, this is an actual picture of the Red Room in the real house.
Wow.
And then this, again, I'm sure you remember, this is just obviously a scene from the original film. You remember that they did include that scene in the movie too, the face of Ronald DeFeo Jr.
Yes, and Sydney, I was just thinking the exact same thing.
Well, what did she say?
She said red room, like red rum, like The Shining.
Yeah, that's right. One night, George heard his children's bed slamming up and down on the floor above him, but he was unable to do anything because he was held in his bed by an unseen force. Later that night, he woke up to see his wife levitating and moving across the bed. She levitated about 30 centimeters above her bed on several occasions. There were cold spots and odors of perfume and excrement in areas of the house where no wind drafts or piping would explain the source. George couldn't get warm in the house for many days. He kept the fireplace burning day and night in a futile attempt to stay warm. Now, while tending to the fire, also, George and Kathy saw the image of a demon with half its head blown out. It was burned into the soot in the back of the fireplace. Now, this is where we get to Jody.
Hey, Ray.
Sorry, what was that, Don?
I was saying hi to Ray. He's asking how we're doing. I'm doing great,
okay.
Ray. Yeah.
The Lutz's daughter, Missy, developed an imaginary friend named Jody, a demonic pig-like creature with glowing red eyes. She often described the entity as my friend Jody, the biggest pig you ever saw. And supposedly this is an actual sketch that Missy had made. Obviously, I have no idea what's going on around here, but considering that this was drawn by a 5-year-old, typical kid drawing, but this is supposedly Jody that she drew.
Wow.
George would hear what was described as a German marching band tuning up, or what sounded like a clock radio playing not quite on frequency. When he went downstairs to investigate, the noise would cease, which, again, there's that scene in the original film where you hear like drumming going on downstairs, and he goes down to investigate, and then it just stops.
Oh.
Kathy would often feel invisible hands grabbing her. She once found red marks where the hands had been. In the early morning hours of Christmas Day, while checking the boathouse one night, George this kind of represents kind of like a scene in the remake. George looked up and saw a pair of glowing red eyes looking at him, standing behind Missy at the bedroom window. When he ran upstairs to investigate, he found her fast asleep, and there was nothing to be found. Although, oh yeah, there's a screenshot from the movie of the demonic pig version of her. And there was nothing to be found, although her small rocking chair was slowly rocking back and forth. Later, it was suggested it could have been Jody. George realized that he bore a strong resemblance to Ronald DeFeo Jr. and began drinking at the Witch's Brew, a bar where DeFeo was once a regular customer. And you can kind of see the partial resemblance between the two, that they kind of do look like each other.
They do look a little similar, yeah.
They almost look like they could be related.
Yeah. That's creepy.
Now, when closing Missy's window, which Jody climbed out of and wanted to come inside, Kathy saw red eyes glowing at her. She then threw a chair through the window. She reported there was a cry like that of a wounded animal, a long squealing. While in bed, Kathy received red welts, cuts, and bruises on her chest caused by an unseen force, and was levitated 2 feet off the bed. Locks, doors, and windows in the house were damaged by an unseen force. The red eyes appeared later by the window near the staircase. When George ran outside, he found cloven hoof prints attributed to an enormous pig appeared in the snow outside the house on January 1st, 1976. Green, gelatin-like slime oozed from walls in the hall and also from the keyhole of the playroom door in the attic, which obviously no photo of that is shown, so I showed a screenshot again from the original film of the blood dripping from the walls instead.
Here, Sydney made a joke saying Levitation by Dua Lipa. That's a song.
Oh, yeah. I think this might be the last one of the list.
Oh, okay.
A 12-inch crucifix hung in the living room by Kathy revolved until it was upside down, leaking a strange black liquid and gave off a sour smell.
Inverted cross.
Yep. George tripped over a 4-foot-high China lion, which was an ornament in the living room, and was left with bite marks on one of his ankles. And yes, that's the real China lion.
Wow.
Later, this lion would appear in the living room after George had moved it back upstairs into the sewing room. George saw Kathy begin levitating and floated toward the open window. When George tried to pull her down, he saw her 30-year-old face transform into an old woman of 90, the hair wild, a shocking white, the face a mass of wrinkles and ugly lines, and saliva dripping from the toothless mouth. Missy would sing constantly in her room. Whenever she would go out of the room, she stopped singing. But going back to the room, she would go back to sing where she left off. Windows were constantly opening by themselves, then slamming shut. Doors were reportedly often ripped off their hinges in the house, even though they were securely locked. George also saw a white hooded figure in the fireplace. A sticky substance often oozed from the ceiling, stairs, and the door edges. The insides of the toilet bowls and two upstairs bathrooms turned absolutely black, as though someone has painted them from the bottom to the edge just below the rim.
Oh, yeah, Nick, I remember last time
Yep.
when we saw this scene, I was making fun of that. I was saying, I don't see why they were freaked out. I mean, obviously they struck oil.
Yes, they did. But apparently Kathy had scrubbed both bowls with Clorox but could not remove the substance. The Lutzes claimed while sitting, they always heard footsteps coming from the upstairs bedrooms when no one was up there. A bartender who had worked at a party in the house at 112 Ocean Avenue when the DeFeos had lived there told Lutz that he had found the secret red room in the basement. He stated night. Sorry, what's up?
Nikki's here.
Oh, hey, Nikki.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm losing my voice, but I'm good.
Oh,
That's good.
that's good. Yeah. So
So,
yeah, right now we're just going over the presentation of like the true story of Amityville, of the Amityville house.
so the bartender
Oh, we lost
claimed
her.
that. Oh, shoot, we lost her
Yeah.
again. It's probably the connection. I'm sure she'll come back.
Yeah. Hopefully.
So the bartender stated that he had nightmares about that red room for years. He told them that sometimes he dreamed that people were killing dogs and pigs in there and using their blood for some kind of ceremony. George and Kathy claimed they saw a face outside with glowing red eyes peering in the living room window at them. When George threw an object at it, it ran away, squealing like a pig. On one occasion, Kathy heard what sounded like a window being opened and closed through the sewing room door, even though she was sure no one was in there. Okay, I'm sorry. This is actually the last one. My mistake. Actually, no. That was everything. So this was actually after all these aforementioned events, after deciding that something was wrong with their house that they could not explain rationally, George and Kathy carried out a blessing of their own on January 8th. George held a silver crucifix while they both recited the Lord's Prayer, and while in the living room, George allegedly heard a chorus of voices asking them, "Will you stop?" By mid-January, and after another attempt at a house blessing by George and Kathy, they experienced what would turn out to be their final night in the house. The Lutzes declined to give a full account of the events that took place on this occasion, describing them as too frightening. Although years later, George finally revealed what happened. The final night the Lutz family spent in the house was, in George's words, the reason not to stay there anymore. I was lying in bed and everyone was asleep, and Kathy lifts off the bed and starts to slide away from the bed and away from me. Lutz said, "I feel something get in the bed with us. I'm unable to move. I hear the beds continually slamming up and down on the floor and being dragged. We heard these pigeons on the air conditioner top overhead from the master bedroom, and they're fluttering all night long. And yet there are no pigeons there the next morning or any nest or anything like that. The lights flickered. We brought the dog up to stay right by the bedroom. We tied him right to the doorknob, and he's up, going in circles and throwing up all night. The boys came down in the morning absolutely frightened. They were unable to get down to me, and I was unable to get up to them. Missy came and just asked what was that all about, and Kathy had no memory of much of it. That day we spent trying to get a hold of Father Ray, and he said all the right words. On the afternoon of January 14, 1976, George and Kathy Lutz, with their 3 children, Daniel, Christopher, and Melissa, and their dog Harry, left 112 Ocean Avenue, leaving all their possessions behind. Sorry, I got a little bit behind with the pictures. The next day, a mover came in to remove all the possessions to send to the Lutzes. Strangely, he reported no paranormal phenomena while inside the house. After getting in touch with Father Mancuso, the Lutzes decided to take some belongings and stay at Kathy's mother's house in nearby Deer Park until they had sorted out the problems with the house. And that's actually a screenshot of the interview of them. Now, supposedly, they claim that the phenomena followed them there, with the final scene of Anson's book describing greenish-black slime coming up the staircase towards them. So, but anyways, before I continue on, is there anything you'd like to say, Don, during all this?
Wow. I mean, if there really was something driving them out of that house, it's like, I got it. Like, I'm not sure if the correct word exists to describe something as horrific as that.
Well, it's still kind of controversial, but this, because again, a lot of this was later added into the book, but we're just going to go a little bit more further out to it. But after fleeing the home in January, George and Kathy, with the assistance of Channel 5 news assistant, 19-year-old Laura DiDio, contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, a husband and wife team of self-proclaimed demonologists. 20 days after the Lutzes fled, Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in by Marvin Scott, a news reporter with Channel 5 New York who had covered the Amityville story and worked on a prior investigation with the Warrens. So, this is a kind of more a little bit about the investigation itself. During the period in which the Lutz family shortly left 112 Ocean Avenue, Dr. Stephen Kaplan, a self-styled vampirologist and ghost hunter, was also called in to investigate the house prior to the arrival of the Warrens. According to Kaplan, on February 16th, shortly after the Lutzes abandoned the house, Kaplan received a phone call from George. At the time, Kaplan was the executive director of the Parapsychology Institute of America on Long Island and was a frequent guest on the WBAB radio program Spectrum with Joel Martin. This initial conversation immediately aroused his suspicions as the validity of Lutz's claim that the house was haunted. Kaplan claims Lutz asked about a fee for the group's services, and Kaplan told them that they did not charge for the investigation, but that if the story is a hoax, the public will know. Shortly after, Lutz called and canceled the investigation, which does raise a little bit of suspicion when you really think about it. George and Kathy claimed that Kaplan's credentials did not check out and that his claims to be a vampirologist made them wary of any involvement with the case. Kaplan also claimed to hold a PhD that he did not actually have. This was not the first time they were questioned, either. Ed and Lorraine Warren had defended themselves with this when questioned about the Amityville horror conspiracy. This is actually the book that Stephen Kaplan wrote. Kaplan and the Lutzes had a falling out after Kaplan said that he would expose any fraud that was found. Kaplan went to write on a critical book titled The Amityville Horror Conspiracy with his wife Roxane Souch Kaplan. The book was published about 20 years afterwards in December of 1995, less than 6 months after his death at the age of 54. But now on to the actual investigation itself. A team of reporters, investigators, and parapsychologists were assembled by Ed and met at the home at 112 Ocean Avenue. The Lutz family refused to enter the home during the investigation.
Nick, Sydney's asking if that book that you just mentioned, was that for the movie?
No, this was made. It was actually in regard to the real life case, because again, this was made back 10 years before the remake came out in 1995, and that was also sadly the same year that Stephen Kaplan passed away. So he only got to see the light of day with this book for 6 months before he died in 1995. The Warrens first entered 112 Ocean Avenue on February 24th. That's my birthday. Lorraine described an overwhelming sense of sadness and depression throughout the entire home. And now there is actual footage of the investigation itself. As you can see, there were news television. They had the news television with them. Unfortunately, that footage is unavailable. I was unable to find the actual footage itself. Hopefully, maybe one day it will be available, but right now it's not, so I can only rely on screenshots and photos that were taken during the investigation. After entering the basement, Ed felt a powerful, inhuman presence. It was as if I were standing underneath a waterfall. Ed recalls in a later interview, and the pressure was driving me down to the floor. And I commanded in the name of Jesus Christ what was there to reveal its identity. I understood right at that point that what we were dealing with was no ghosts. This was no ordinary haunted house. And again, I know it looks like Ed's checking out the fridge, but again, he's actually really investigating. There probably was a presence in the basement, clearly. After conducting their initial investigation, the Warrens put together a group of professional psychics to assist them in their findings. The Channel 5 news team, Marvin Scott, Steve Petropoulos, and Laurel DiDio, covered the Warrens' investigation on the night of March 6th. And these, again, are screenshots of the actual investigation when they came back a few nights later. That is, I believe that's Marvin Scott on the right, and that's 19-year-old Laura on the left. A friend of the Warrens, Mary Pascarella, that's her, traveled along to the house during their March 6th investigation. Mary considers herself a time walker, a person who is able to sense and sometimes visualize past events in a particular location. The house at 112 Ocean Avenue was no exception. I began to say my prayers, and I was saying the Our Father, recalls Mary Pascarella in a 2002 interview. I looked out of the door, and as I was saying the Our Father, there was a group of figures saying the Our Father backward. Mary was not the only one who experienced strange events that night. Channel 5 cameraman Steve Petropoulos reportedly suffered a rash of palpitations and shortness of breath while climbing the staircase. The Warrens say they also felt a cold spot on the staircase, a detail George had since he said he also experienced. During the first seance, Mary also became ill and was ushered out of the room. There seems to be some kind of black shadow that forms a head and it moves, Mary claimed. And it moves, I feel personally threatened. As it moves, I feel personally threatened. Another psychic, Alberta Riley, made similar claims during the seance. It's upstairs in the bedroom. What's here makes your heart speed up. My heart's pounding. Whatever is here, in my estimation, most definitely of a negative nature. It has nothing to do with anyone who had once walked the earth in human form. It is right from the bowels of the earth, insists Lorraine. Whatever is here is able to move around at will. It doesn't have to stay here, but I think it's a resting place. During the investigation, Ed was physically pushed to the floor while using some religious provocation in the basement. Lorraine, as you can see in this picture, was also overwhelmed by the sense of a demonic presence and was plagued by her psychic impressions of the DeFeo family's bodies, laid along the floor covered in white sheets, and a sense of physically being pushed back. During the oh, yes, now I'm sure what I'm about to show next is probably a photo I think we're all too familiar with that's about to come up.
All right, let's see.
During the course of the investigation, Gene Campbell, as you can see in this picture, took a series of infrared time-lapse photographs. One of the images allegedly showed a demonic little boy with glowing eyes who was standing at the foot of a staircase peering from the second floor. The photograph did not emerge into the public domain until 1979, so right around the time when the original film came out, when George and Kathy and Rod Steiger appeared on the Merv Griffin show to promote the release of the first film. The land was also found to be used by John Ketchum. John Ketchum was supposedly a practicing black magician in the 17th century and had a cottage on the land prior to the construction of the Dutch colonial in 1924. John requested that his remains be buried on that property, and they remain supposedly somewhere on the grounds to this day.
Wow.
So, what do you think, Don?
That's insane.
It's hard to say. Now, they did say there were no children present when this photograph was taken. So, it's hard to really... Some people also point out that this might also be... I know they are using the term demonic, which, of course, obviously, I tend to avoid using. But some people also may point out that this could be, if this is an actual ghost photo, that it could also be one of the DeFeo children, one of the boys that was murdered.
Oh.
Which they've done a photo comparison with the two younger DeFeo boys, and he does kind of give a partial resemblance of what one of the DeFeo boys looks like, but it's really hard to say for the most part.
Kind of looks like a doll's head, Sydney says.
It does. I mean, whether this is an actual ghost photo or not, it could be anything at this point. After all, there was a lot of activity that was occurring in this. There was some activity occurring in this house. So,
how many more slides you got?
I'm just going to read maybe just one more, and this will probably be it.
Okay.
I'm just because if there are any more, I'm just going to skip ahead because I'm not going to get through everything. But I'm just going to say something about John Ketchum. Yeah, this is actually about John Ketchum. More about him. In the late 1600s, Amityville was part of Huntington Township. A check of the Historical Society located in Huntington, a town approximately 13 miles from Amityville, revealed that there were several John Ketchums in the area. So again, this is what makes things a little bit controversial. DeFeo's defense lawyer, William Weber, claimed that his research showed that the house was built on land owned at one time by John Ketchum. While the Ketchum family did own land in Amityville, and there is a Ketchum Avenue in the town, believe it or not, claims of a direct link with 112 Ocean Avenue remain controversial. Moreover, Jay Anson's book suggests that the property is cursed because it had once belonged to John Ketchum, a suspected witch who had fled Salem, Massachusetts before taking up residence in Amityville. The Amityville Horror website gives reason why there are so many Ketchum locations around Ocean Avenue. However, it was a descendant of this John Ketchum by the name of Zebulon Ketchum, who would later become a major player in Amityville. Ketchum Avenue near Ocean Avenue is named for this Ketchum, not his forefather. Zebulon Ketchum joined the local militia during the Revolutionary War, and get this, in 1790, George Washington would have dinner at Ketchum's Hotel in what was then called Huntington South. So even our founding president supposedly knew Zebulon Ketchum. Ketchum was also a very well-known family that lived in Amityville within the 18th century. Many historical buildings were owned by them and are now museums in Amityville. However, surviving members claim that there was never a witch in the family. As to whether or not they ever owned the Ocean Avenue lot has never been verified. Because records of this time period are sketchy at best, there was no clear proof that any Ketchum ever resided on or near the property. The most definitive proof against John Ketchum's being a witch came from the Ketchum family's own extensive research into their I always have problems with that. Genealogy. I don't know. After careful investigation, they have been able to determine there never was a witch named John Ketchum. So I'm going to just skip ahead of something because there is, I'm not necessarily something I want to read, but knowing that Tom actually sent these to me. You're going to like this, Don. So, I don't get very many people who actually send stuff personally to me, so this is actually some. I don't know if Tom McNicholas is still watching. So, give me a here. Can you log out of the screen again? Because I'm going to share it again.
Here.
Okay, hang on. Okay, so these pictures here that I'm about to show. Okay, here we go. You got the window ready?
Yep.
Okay, so these pictures here, as you can see, you're going to find this really hard to believe, Don, but these were actually taken by our good friend Tom McNicholas himself. Wow. He took these pictures directly back in about over a decade, back in 1986. And you can clearly see, I'm not going to read this part, I'm just showing the pictures. You can clearly see already the house has already gone through different changes. You can see the classic eye windows in the front have been removed and replaced with normal ones. The back ones are still there, but they add an additional center window. They're already trying to make it unrecognizable.
Wow.
So how cool is that one of our very own friends has actually been to that house and took pictures when it was still kind of a popular site, which, as I said previously, Tom, I don't know if you're watching or not, but once again, thank you very much for these photos. So it's quite a rarity. So yeah, these were taken 40 years ago.
Wow, nice.
So how cool is that?
That's amazing.
To kind of wrap things up, because I know we're cutting it close. While I'm looking, Don, is there anything else you want to say while I'm wrapping things up?
I mean, like, obviously, the Amityville house is highly stigmatized because of the past supposed hauntings and also the movies and the novel that made it even more notorious. I mean, it's like who it's like, man, this is definitely going to be a true wonder for all paranormal enthusiasts and investigators for generations to come.
So I got one more slide. I'm not going to read it. It's actually a clip, but it's only about a minute and a half. Remember when we were talking? Remember before when we were talking about how much notoriety the house got, like how much attention it got?
Oh,
there he is. There he is. Yeah, the damage on the side from the people. Yeah, exactly like what Tom just said. So thank you, Tom. what I'm going to show again, it's only a minute and a half. This is an actual news clip to show how there were so many curiosity seekers that wanted to visit the real house. You can kind of understand how people were, the current owners were stressed out, from all these unwanted visitors. So we're going to kind of end things with this quickly. So again, we only got another minute, so I got to make this quick. So
Yep.
Let me know if you could hear this, Don.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Play it.
Okay.
Play it.
Can you hear it?
Barely.
Okay, hang on 1 second here, because I know sometimes with what you can do with sharing. Let me try this again one more time, because I know sometimes you. Oh wait, yeah, I forgot. You're right. I forgot to add the sound system audio. All right, let's try this again.
All right. All right.
All right, you got it. You got the full screen. You got it done.
Yep.
Okay.
The Cromedies who bought the house have packed up and left, driven away by an onslaught of tourists and pranksters who still continue to come in front. Told by the now.
Hang on a sec. It's free. Okay, here's what I'm just going to do instead. I'm sorry. Okay, I think I'm just gonna have to play it this. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to play it this way because for whatever reason it's just it freezes when I'm on the slide itself. Okay, so let's try this instead.
Okay.
See if maybe I could try to zoom in on it a little bit too, so you guys can get a better. You were able to hear it though, at least, right, Don?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
The Cromedies who bought the house have packed up and left, driven away by an onslaught of tourists and pranksters who still continue to come and gawk, not fooled by the now changed address out in front. Now, why did you come by tonight to look at this house?
See what that book was all about and everything about the house, the way it looked, and all the things that people say.
Oh, we just wanted to see what it was like. I guess we just specifically came from Chicago to see it.
Do you believe more stories?
Yeah, I do. They're kind of creepy. They gave me the creeps that.
Why do you believe it when the present owners say there's no truth to it at all? They've been living here for almost 2 years.
Oh, I didn't know they had present owners. I thought it was deserted.
A man who said he was a friend of the Cromedies also came by, but insisted he not be photographed. You say a friend of yours lives here, you've been in the house. Is there any truth to all these stories that it's haunted? There are weird smells and slime and all those other things?
Nothing at all. It's all a bunch of lies.
Well, how do you feel about all these tourists coming by and the movie opening and all of this? What do you think of that?
Well, I live right down the road. It's a pain in the neck because you can't even get down the block.
But when we started rolling the cameras, I had no idea just how much of a pain in the neck it was for the man now temporarily living in the house. As Frank Birch and another man came to the porch, I walked up the driveway to talk to him. He refused and demanded I leave. I thought I did so fairly quickly, but apparently not quickly enough. Within minutes, a police car arrived, then another. Birch came out and told the police he was pressing charges. My crime, trespassing. I begged for mercy. None was forthcoming. I was shown into a police car and driven to the Amityville police station. Inside, officers pulled out 8 separate forms to be signed. I sat by nervously while my camera crew waited outside. Mercifully, I was finally able to convince Mr. Birch that I had not intended to cause any problems and had not in fact been aware I was trespassing. He signed forms rescinding his charges. I signed forms releasing him from charges of false arrest. We shook hands, and after more than an hour in captivity, I was finally free.
So yeah, you can see how much the media really kind of cracked down. How they really cracked down on it. So yeah, I honestly don't blame the owners for feeling that way.
Yeah, I mean, this is like one of those houses that's gonna get that gets tons of attention because of things that took place there, and we got houses like that here in Chicago for that, and also there are houses that get attention for positive things, like up in Winnetka, where we've got the Home Alone house. I mean, lots of people keep going up to that house for. Oh man, like especially during the holiday season. I mean, obviously, but then that has had a list of owners who have just been tired of all the attention. Yeah, so.
Billy, yeah, the house is still there, but it's gone. It's gone through. It's not the same like it used to. It's a lot different than what it looked like before. I mean, it's still a Dutch colonial house, but the appearance has changed dramatically, like since the time it was released. So, but yeah, like it sounds like to me that while they still have visitors that sometimes still show up, It's not as frequent as it was back in the 70s and 80s. So, in my personal opinion, if we had a little bit more time, I would have actually gone more with more of the true story of everything, because like a lot of what you heard is maybe partially true, but at the same time though, we actually found some stuff to be false. If we had just a little bit more time, I would have jumped to it, but we just don't have that much because we have to wrap things up. But if ever given the chance, I could try to maybe fit a few minutes, not tonight obviously, but we could try to fit in a few minutes at some point about the real case behind it.
Right. So, yeah, I guess that's going to be it for this edition of the Fear Fans podcast. So, when we come back, I already have an idea of which movie to cover next.
What do you got?
Something that's highly requested, something we both saw recently. It has music and vampires.
Oh, is it what I think it is?
Yep, Sinners. That's what I'm doing. Tons of you guys have been asking me like crazy to cover this one, and hey, I gotta say I don't blame you. I love that movie. So, yeah. So Nick, if you're up for it, I'm considering Sinners next.
Yeah, I'm more considering you also recently showed that to me. I'm up for that too. And Sydney, just to answer your question, that's just part of the poster.
Oh yeah, Sydney. Yeah, that's Ryan Reynolds carrying the gun. Yeah, Sinners is fun. Oh yes, it is. Yeah, it's like a few people complain about like how slow it is. It's like, well, it's establishing the story and the characters. Like it does have a good build up.
It's doing it, in my personal opinion, the correct way.
Yes, totally. So yeah, that's you got that to look forward to. Sinners is next on the Fear Fans podcast. So yeah, we'll be back in 2 weeks to cover it. I'm gonna let the whole group know this time what we're we're gonna let them know in advance. So
yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. So hope you guys enjoyed, and hit the like button if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed. Subscribe to Nick's channel, to Things Network, and look forward to
excuse me. Sorry.
Look forward to getting back into this. So have a good night, everybody.
Have a good start to your summer too.
Yes. Have a good night.